Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to another session of our MENA online conference. As you're coming in, please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from. If you are in Zoom, please use the chat for comments and to answer questions, and the Q&A is for any questions you might have for our speaker. A lot of hellos in the chat box. Wow, quite the variety. Algeria, Indonesia, Spain, Saudi, Lebanon, Algeria. Welcome, everyone. Palestine, Kuwait, and Egypt, of course. We're about to start our final session for day one of the conference. Our session is labeled Beyond Language, Overcoming Cultural Barriers in English Classroom in MENA with Yousra Berrada. Now, before we start, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker and tell you a bit about her. A lot of love in the chat, Yousra. I hope you can see it. So Yousra Berrada is an English teacher from Morocco. She has a background in science and industrial management and has since earned a BA in linguistics and TESOL. She's also now completing a master's in cross-cultural communication and visual media. Yusra combines her diverse background with classroom expertise to create engaging learning environments that inspire learners and encourage meaningful language connections. I bet everyone is dying to hear your presentation, Yusra. I hand it now to you. Go ahead. Enjoy the webinar, guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Nadia, for this lovely introduction and for moderating today's session. It's actually a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm genuinely honored to be representing Morocco, Shuaib Dukkali University, and ALC El Jadida at this MENA online conference. And of course, I would like to thank the British Council for organizing this inspiring event that brings teachers from across our region, and also I can see Spain and other countries together. So thank you so much. So as Nadia pointed out, today we will explore beyond language, overcoming cultural barriers in English classrooms in MENA. So today we will go beyond grammar and vocabulary to explore how culture shapes the way our students learn English. Okay. So here is the plan. By the end of this session, you'll have understood what culture means in the EFL classroom, explored 5 common cultural challenges we often face in MENA classrooms, illustrated how these barriers appear in real classroom situations. You will also have learned practical tips to make classroom more inclusive and culturally aware. You will also have reflected on how to apply at least one strategy in your next class. So feel free to use the chat box or your comments to share your thoughts as we go. Okay, let's start with this quote. This quote actually beautifully summarizes our starting point. For students to be successful, we must help them accept and affirm who they are culturally. So language is not just about words, it's about identity. And when students feel that their culture is valued, they become more confident and they become more motivated to learn. I want you to take a moment to reflect on this quote. What first comes to your mind when you hear the idea of affirming students' cultural identity in learning? I'm looking forward to seeing your reflections on the quote I shared. Yes, relief, diversity. Yes, belief, history. Yes, has said personalization, open-minded. Yes, Nadia. Okay. Saria said equality in learning. Excellent. So I can see really many thoughtful ideas here. Yes, words like pride, accommodation. Very good, exactly. So before we dive on this, I want to make sure that we are on the same page when we talk about culture. And that's why I have chosen two definitions of culture to show both historical roots. I have this definition, okay, and to show the modern perspective of the concepts. And I brought this. The first comes from Edward Tyler back in 1871. In his book, Primitive Culture, he defined culture as a complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, moral, law, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. The second definition is a very recent one. It's from 2025 by Sihon Big and Nguyen, which reflects a more contemporary view of culture. So in her definition, she stated that culture is various, or it combines various elements like products, practices, perspectives, and persons. I want you to share with me, what do you think we mean by products, practices, perspectives before I share my thoughts? Yes, Hilal, very good. Make them feel safe and not come across culture shock. Students feel valued, increases. Very good. Bob from India says this is part of culture, expressing an opinion. Well, by product here, we mean the visible aspects of culture, such as food, music, clothing, technology. Practices are the ways people behave or interact. For example, the way they greet each other, how they celebrate events, or how they express politeness, for example. While perspectives, it represents the deeper level of culture, the values, the beliefs, the attitudes. And finally, persons, it refers to the individuals who embody or represent that culture. Okay, here is my question. Sorry, okay. Yes. What's one word you personally associate with the word culture? I need only one word. Yes, mirror, identity, diversity, traditions, origin, background, customs, self-awareness, communication. Yeah, life, mirror. Very good, beautiful. I'm seeing like words here, moral, belief. Very good. So you're absolutely right. Culture touches every aspect of how we learn and communicate. You're right. So here are some words, okay, that we can associate with the word culture. Good. We have language, values, relationships, yes, rituals. Let's move now to how this culture or these aspects affect our classrooms. So culture influences communication, authority, gender relation, and even what kind of knowledge students consider valuable. So when teacher and students come from different cultural backgrounds, or sometimes even different interpretations within the same culture, misunderstandings can easily happen. And that brings us to our main question for today. What are cultural barriers in EFL classrooms? So we will explore that together. Okay, let's have a look at the most common ones. So through research and experience, we can identify these 5 major cultural barriers. So we have communication styles, power distance, face saving, gender norms, cultural irrelevance of materials. So don't worry, we will explore each of these one by one with real life classroom scenarios and practical strategies that you can start using right away. Okay, let's start with communication styles. So we have high context and low context cultures. These two terms are introduced by the anthropologist Edward TESOL in 1976 to describe how people in different cultures communicate. In many MENA cultures, like in Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, communication leans toward the high context culture. Okay, as you can see here, yes, communication is indirect and it relies on tone, gestures, and shared experiences. In contrast, low context cultures, like many Western ones, the communication is direct and straightforward. And I would like to point out that when we say culture leans toward being a high context or low context, it doesn't necessarily mean that every individual in that culture communicate the same way. For example, let me share with you an idea to make it concrete. This is a personal example. My husband and I live under the same roof, but we actually have different communication styles. I tend toward a high context culture while he's more low context. For instance, while preparing for this presentation, I told him I was tired and I need to finish my work. I expected him to take the kids to bed, actually, so that I can continue. But he didn't pick up on that hint because he is from a low context culture and he needs communication to be direct and verbal. When I got upset and I said, why didn't you take the kids to bed? He said, you didn't ask me to do it. You see what I mean? So he needs to have direct and straightforward communication to understand. But I personally relies on hints. So this small incident perfectly shows how high context communication depends on implied meaning, while a low context communication depends on explicit words. Okay, let's move on to this. So actually the same thing can happen in a classroom. Even within one group, students may come from different context cultures. Some communicate indirectly and expect the teacher to infer their needs, while others are more direct. And we as teachers, we need to be aware of these differences to avoid misunderstandings. Okay, so here is a classroom scenario. So when the teacher says, work on your projects and hand them in next week, a high context student might think it's flexible. Just do it sometimes in the week, next week. But a low context student might think it's due exactly next week, same day and same time. You see, these small differences like that can lead to real confusion. Actually, I want you to share with me a situation where communication style might cause misunderstanding, something you have experienced in your class. Okay, here is Khalifa. I think communicate, sorry, I can't, it's gone. Yeah, I think with the communication facilities such as social media, students from different contexts can communicate well with each other. Yes, that's a good point. Well, yeah. Okay, Hanan from Libya saying, okay, people loved my example about my husband and I. When giving homework or providing instruction for class activities. Yes, yes, that's great, amazing. So, yeah, exactly. So when expectations are not clear, communication gap widens. Okay, so everyone likes my my example about my husband. Great. So here are a few practical tips to bridge these gaps. The first thing is to be explicit about instructions and deadlines. State clearly what you want students to do. You can also model the kind of communication you expect. Check their comprehension by having them showing that they understand. Don't wait for them to say yes. Don't ask, have you understand? So ask them what they understand. You can also ask them to paraphrase the instruction. It's also important to pause after asking questions. Let them think before responding. This is what we call the waiting time. And last, encourage students to ask questions. You can teach them, for example, an expression like, could you explain that in a different way? So you can write it on the board, you can stick it on the wall. Okay, normalize it. and reassure students that it's okay not to understand right away. Okay, so you can make them learn some expressions. Good. Do you have any other strategies? Okay. When a teacher uses sarcasm or jokes, some students may take it literally and get confused. Yes, you are right, Reda. Yes. But sometimes it's good to use jokes in your class because you're not directing people or students in your class directly. Okay, so let's move on to another important concept, which is power distance. And this comes from Geert Hofstede, cultural dimension theory. And it refers to how people in a society view and accept differences in power and authority. In classrooms, for example, with a high power distance, means people who it's okay for them to accept differences, teachers are seen as absolute authority. And students often never challenge or correct the teacher. Even when they don't agree with them, they don't correct them. And that might seem respectful, which is a good thing. But the problem is, English is often taught communicatively through interactions, speaking activities, exchanges of ideas. But this high power distance can create barriers to language learning because teachers dominate the talking time and they limit the learner centered communication, while the students hesitate to question, challenge, or express their opinion. And that's a problem. So, here in this quote, Hofstede perfectly captured this idea. He argues that schools in high power distant cultures are teacher centered and strictly disciplined. The teacher is seen as the keeper of the knowledge, and students' learning gains are largely attributed to the excellence of their teacher, not to the students. So he illustrated the point we have been talking about right now. And this brings up to an important question. What could teachers do to balance respect and open communication in their classroom? So what can you do to balance this respect? We need respect in our class, absolutely. And we also need participation and their engagement in class. Okay, we have Ahmed Mohammed, 20% for teacher and 80% for the students. That's a good strategy. I love that. Use effective instructions. Yes, Noor, very good. Isra, by setting rules and limits. Shema, respect should be mutual. Yes, absolutely. As is motivation and no judgment. I love that. Sarah, Safar, activities. Yes, be friendly, clear instruction, actual. Wonderful ideas. Yes, Kamal, classroom rules. Very good. Busra, okay, it's gone. Actual, yes, very good. So you have wonderful ideas, guys. Yes, I'm amazed. So that's exactly how we can make students feel their voice in class. Yes, brainstorming, value others' opinion. Yes, Menel, you're absolutely right. Set expectation, being a good role model, break ice activities, choosing activities that make students involved. Yes, you are absolutely right. So to reduce power distance in class, I have these two strategies. So the first one is to soften teachers' authority. That means being more approachable, proximate to students. Don't be the I know everything teacher. Let students ask, let them share and correct you sometimes. There's no harm if they do so. And second, encourage collaborative learning. Let students work in pairs or small groups because they learn from each other. Okay, better. They feel more relaxed when they work together. And something important that you have mentioned in the comments, you have to minimize your TTT, the teacher talking time. So let students speak. And as I've seen from Mohammed, I guess, 20% for the teacher and 80% for the students. That's a good one. Okay, now let's talk about face saving. And if you are following, this is the barrier number 2 or 3. Let me see your comments. The third, very good, Khulud. You are following. Yes, you are all following. So Face saving is something that is deeply rooted in the MENA region. Face saving is about protecting one's dignity and reputation in front of others. In classrooms, as as Galmich pointed out, it often shows up as avoidance behavior, like skipping classes, staying silent, or refusing to answer questions, just to avoid embarrassment. So Wang in 2005 stated that the pressure to use English can sometimes threaten students' faith and make them hesitant to participate in speaking activities. Okay, so here what do we have? Yes, we have the pressure to use English, and here is more. Wang in 2010 adds that students often refrain from communication not only because of limited English proficiency, but also of teachers' comments. By the way, these two studies, Wang 2010 and 2005, are done by different researchers in China. Their initials are different. We have Y and N. So in Chinese academic publishing, Wang is a very common surname, which makes sense because the concept of face is very rooted in Chinese culture, the same as MENA. Okay, so what can you understand from these two quotes? How can we correct students without making them feel embarrassed? We have to balance. Yes, Riham, how can we do that? Discussion, self-reflection. Very good. So we want to correct those mistakes without making them feel embarrassed. Reformulation of sentence. Very good, Muhammad Salah. I love that. Peer correction. Beautiful. So I see ideas like being approachable, positive reinforcement, respects their opinion, repeating the error. Yes, Kamel, excellent. Marwa, yes, be more friendly and close to them, rephrasing. Very good. Using humor as well. Yes, so thank you for sharing your ideas. I really like how you focused on making students feel safe and motivated at the same time. Group work. Yes, so here are two strategies that I personally use. The first one is to normalize error. You have probably heard about word of the day, idiom of the day, right? So why not introducing concepts like error of the day or error of the week? You can share a common mistake that students make and together talk about it. Why does this mistake happen? How we can fix it? Okay? So this way, students can understand that mistakes are part of learning, and automatically this will reduce their anxiety and embarrassment around making errors. Yes. Wow, that can be really helpful. Thank you. Nice. I'm glad I've been helpful today. Good. The second strategy is using indirect or gentle feedback. Try to correct mistakes in private rather than in public to avoid embarrassment. You can use reformulation, as many of you stated today. Yes, you can repeat what a student said correctly. Instead of saying that he is wrong, you can say, instead of goat, he said goat. You can say, he went to school. Okay, you just rephrase what he said correctly. We have Mifdal Mohammed. Okay, good. So this is actually an effective technique for giving feedback. I will share it with you now. Okay. This is my homemade PowerPoint sandwich. It actually represents a powerful idea called sandwich strategy. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. So just like a sandwich has layers, something nice on top, something in the middle, or something nice at the end, our feedback can follow the same structure. So we can start with a positive comment, then give constructive criticism in the middle, and we can finish with encouragement or another positive remark. So we start with positive, constructive feedback, and we end up with another positive remark. So this helps students accept correction without feeling embarrassed or discouraged. Very good. That's what you pointed out. You love the example? Good, Sharif. Okay, so let's move on. This is very sensitive, okay? Yet it's real. Gender norm, okay? This is one of the important or sensitive cultural barriers that we have in the MENA classroom. So gender norms shape how students communicate, participate, and interact. For example, in some contexts, mixed gender interaction is limited, not because of students lack motivation, but because they want to respect social and religious boundaries. For example, in my classroom, I had some veiled students who refused to engage with boys. It was a matter of values for them. So unfortunately, this makes pair group or group work more complicated, especially during speaking activities, which creates a challenge for teachers who aim to promote interaction in their EFL learning. So let me share with you a real life case from Jordan. Okay, and then we will discuss the solutions together. So this study is on cultural obstacles that hinders language teaching and learning among Jordanian EFL learners. It was done by Abdullah Al-Khuwaili, and 40 participants were involved, 13 female and 10 male students. So here is one of the what one of the males has said. How can I speak to a girl who is not covered? Even her voice can be critical to me. Speaking with her personally in group work can develop a relationship with her which is against our religion. That's true. And the female student said, I like to work alone. I feel relaxed when I work alone. Also, as a Muslim girl, I'm not supposed to talk closely to strangers. So what do you think about that? Actually, both learners expressed discomfort with mixed gender collaboration. The male student fears that working closely with female peers could violate religious expectations, while the female student prefers working alone to feel comfortable and adhere to social and religious norms. Okay, you tell me, have you experienced anything similar in your classroom? Yes, Hanan, I absolutely agree with you. Cultural and religious norms have to be accepted. You agree completely? Yes. Respect. This is going very fast. We have girl. Yes, you have girl schools for girls. Actually, in Morocco, we don't have. We used to have some schools like that, but nowadays we don't. Yes, we have girls. Even doesn't say hello to boys. Yes, Nasima, especially married women. Yes, you're right. But we are still talking about like a classroom in like they are not married, single. How can you end these unspoken rules as foreign teachers? I respect the other cause. Yeah, so these attitudes show that gender norms can limit participation. It reduces the collaborative opportunities that we might have in class, and it creates barriers to communicate. Yes, you are right. So now here are some practical strategies that you can apply. The first thing is to allow same gender group work when needed, to respect the comfort level students because they feel more comfortable when they interact with peers of the same gender. This is reduces like their anxiety, okay? And they will not feel that they are violating social or religious expectations. So it's better to use the same gender group work. And even when the same gender grouping is not enough, you can implement other form of interaction. So you don't require so things you don't really need that to mix gender in groups. So students can exchange short written dialogues, or they can participate in online games. There is Kahoot, Quizlet, there are many. So this will encourage their communication without this face-to-face mixed gender interaction. Because at the end of the day, our aim is not to go against cultural norms, but to adjust our teaching to respect students' values. And of course, at the same time, we have to encourage equality and inclusion. Yes, same at flipped classroom, exactly. So you can use Google Classroom or other to reinforce your learning strategy. So now let's talk about something every teacher has faced, which is text. You all know that many EFL textbooks used in our region, in Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, and so on, they are written by Western authors. While they can be rich and engaging, they often reflect Western lifestyle and social norms, which may not always resonate with our learners. And this is what we refer to as cultural irrelevance in textbooks. So research by Tabor, Youssef, and Ghamidi, they found that when materials lack cultural relevance, students often struggle, not because they lack English skills, but because they lack contextual understanding. So, for example, teaching students about New Year's Eve, Thanksgiving, Halloween, or sometimes dating. So, in one of the textbooks, actually, we use in Morocco. It's written by Western, of course, it's not Moroccan, but we do use it in Morocco. Believe it or not, in Unit 1, right at the beginning of the year, there is vocabulary lesson about couples. Words like boyfriend, girlfriend. Imagine we are teaching our student this. So this content is culturally irrelevant, sensitive, inappropriate for some students, and it creates tension and anxiety in class. My question is, how would you address culturally irrelevant content in textbooks? How can you do that? Normal in Lebanon. In Morocco, actually, teaching students about boyfriend, girlfriend, it's not that normal. But in Lebanon, okay, very good, Mustafa. Textbook adaptation. Jump over classes that contrast our classes. Actually, rejecting is not the solution. You have to adapt. Adaptation, very good, Btisam. Mixing with textbook, yes, giving your own material, changing it, adapt it, very good, adaptation. Yes, Zahir, better to talk, must explain, flexibility, adapt. Yes, so I really see such creative and thoughtful ideas here. Yes, adapting example, very good. You can use, yes, adapting. This is what you have all agreed upon, so adapting. So you can use actually local contexts or and link them to Western topics, to similar local traditions. For example, you can adapt these things. Don't adopt and don't reject. We can localize what we teach to make the learning engaging and meaningful. And to make your material culturally relevant, you can talk about, like here in Morocco or in the MENA context in general, we can talk about Ramadan tradition. You can talk about cities in your country. For example, in Morocco, we'll talk about Marrakech, Casablanca. You talk about Tunis, Cairo, Tripoli. So talk about clothing, festivals, proverbs that define your own culture first. Because when students feel that their own culture reflected in the class, they don't just learn English, they connect with it emotionally. Their motivation to learn becomes even stronger. Yes. So, how can we truly overcome these cultural barriers? I have here two strategies. The first one is to start with building cultural competence for us teachers and for our students. That is cultural that is being aware, reflective, and adaptive when teaching across different cultural contexts. So we talk about cultural awareness, we can notice and respect that people have different backgrounds and ways of thinking. The second one is reflection on biases, because if you think about it, there is no harm in teaching students about Halloween. In fact, learning about it helps them avoid cultural shock because with social media, they will know it with or without you. So the thing is, students have to learn about other cultures without losing their own identity. Okay, and this is what we mean by reflection on bias. We should encourage students to reflect. How can we do that? By comparing Halloween, for example, to our own local tradition. Compare Halloween with Ashura, with Boujloud, with Halilo. This is typically Moroccan. I'm sorry, guys, from other countries. So you can make this comparison so that students feel related and connected. Actually, we are approaching the end of this webinar, and I hope you are enjoying it so far. So you can tell me, what are your takeaways? What did you learn today? You did learn by building, yes, building intercultural skills. Yes, Red. That was perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Tahli. Culture play a big role. Focus on interactional skill. That's amazing. Adaptation, equality in learning. That's awesome. Thank you. Localizing, very good. Also, interesting topic. Thank you. Cultural irrelevance of some materials, so we should select materials carefully. Overcoming learning, yes. This is going too fast. Some teachers actually are asking about TTT. TTT refers to the teacher talking time. Teacher talking time. I love these responses actually. So everything from using culturally relevant example to encouraging more students' voice. So because even one small change can transform the classroom atmosphere. Amazing topic. Thank you. Okay, so here are a few takeaways that I would like to share with you. First, develop cultural awareness. Learn about your own culture and others as well. Try to compare them and reflect on them. Second, adapt teaching methods. Try to be flexible. Try out different techniques. Use indirect feedback, sandwich strategy, remember? Vary your mode of work. Use pair work, group work, same gender group work. So see what works best for your context. And third, create a supportive learning environment where students can feel safe and comfortable, where they can express themselves. Encourage them to ask questions and normalize error. Remember this one? The error of the day or error of the week. So this will help them reduce anxiety in class. And finally, encourage or engage in continuous professional development. Attend conferences, join webinars like this. And the fact that you are here today already shows your commitment. So thumbs up to everyone here. Very good. Okay, so before we end, I would like you to give me one insight or idea from today's session that you will take back to your classroom. Just one. Thank you. Sandwich strategy, error of the day, respect others, error of the week, error of the day. By the way, this error of the week and the day, it's original. I made it up. But sandwich strategy, it's very known. Yes, you're welcome. Adaptation, learning about others' culture, sandwich strategy, adaptation. Oh, this is truly inspiring. Cultural awareness, focus on compliments. Yes, that's wonderful. Okay. So here are some references if you would like to explore this topic further. I see many of you are interested in this topic, so you can find references that inform today's session. So Galmich, Letson, Bill, Yusuf, we will find everything in here. You can take screenshots. Okay, I will give you some time to take a screenshot. Okay, accepting and respecting other culture. Okay, so before we close, I would like to remind you that the British Council provides fantastic opportunities for continued learning and connection. And this is what we talked about, the professional development, continuous professional development. So join our Facebook and LinkedIn communities Take part in online teacher clubs for speaking and professional development. Stay tuned and stay engaged. And thank you all for being part of this amazing session and for your active participation in the chat. It's been a pleasure to be here with you today. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Yousra Berrada, and I would love to stay in touch with you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yousra, for the engaging webinar.
Thank you, Nadia.
Really enjoyed it. I do encourage you guys, Yousra, any questions in the Q&A, give you her answer. All right, Yousra, I have a couple of questions for you, if that's okay?
Yes, of course.
So we have a question asking you about exam-based culture. Despite all the activities I carry out, still students worry so much about how would this be applied in the exam. What's your take on that?
Could you repeat again, please?
The question is, what about exam-based culture, Yousra? Despite all the activities I carry out, still students worry about how would this be applied in the exam.
Actually, you will teach your students what is relevant. You will teach them things that can show up in the exam, of course. And at the same time, you will have to make your classroom inclusive. So you will teach what's in the textbook. You will carry on what would be in the exam, and at the same time, you will encourage students to speak and to speak up their voice and to interact, to ask questions. So this goes hand in hand with what's in the exam.
Thank you. I have another question about the error of the day. A lot of people seem to be interested in it in the chat box, that and the sandwich approach as well, the feedback approach. So I have a question about, the question says, the idea of error of the day seems encouraging, but I think it may turn from being constructive to destructive, especially at the beginning of the year, where teachers don't really know well their students. Instead, the teachers should know when and how to correct errors overtly in class. The teachers have to have a high level of emotional intelligence along with their know-how to a particular subject. So, how can teachers provide constructive feedback without hurting students' emotions?
Yeah, to do so, the error of the week, it's one of the good strategies that I personally use. For example, you notice that some students say like "good" instead of "went." This is the overgeneralization of the ed, of the past form. So when you notice that, you will not direct the students. You will not confront him. So instead, you will keep that mistake in mind, and later in the other day, you will say, here is the mistake of the day. I can see that many students, not exactly in this classroom, but this is a common mistake. Good is incorrect. Use went instead. This is an irregular verb. We cannot add ed. Explain it to students so they will not commit this mistake again. They will not make this error again. Okay, and at the same time, we will not make that students feel embarrassed.
Thank you, Yousra. Another question. How would you deal with a multilingual classroom with no one having the same L1, where people do not share the same mother tongue?
Yeah, so as an EFL classroom, you are here to speak English, to teach English. So it's better to speak English in class. If you know their L1 and it facilitates your teaching experience, it's good in a way. It's not recommended, but you can do so. But if you have like a blended classroom, everyone has his or her own L1 language. So it's better to use English in this class. And that's what we call the immersion, okay? So students learn better when there is 100% of English. Try to use gestures as well. Use visual aids, okay? Make students learn without fostering that use of L1 in the class.
Mhm. Thank you. One last question before we let you go. They would like to know a little bit more about the sandwich strategy. It seems to have, caught their attention. They liked it. So can you tell them a bit more about it?
Yeah, of course. So the sandwich strategy, it's very useful. Okay. So as I said, it has like three main layers. So a positive remark. For example, I can see someone, for example, who made a mistake. Let's keep the same example. Someone who was like in writing. Okay, this is just an example. So you can say, I love your handwriting. Wow, I see, that's amazing. You have an amazing handwriting. This is the first layer, a positive thing about the students. And then you can say, you didn't make use of enough linking words. It's better to start with capital letters in the beginning of the sentence. So here you provide your constructive feedback and you end up with a positive remark or an encouragement. For example, I see you are improving at the end of the feedback. So instead of just saying you didn't use capital letters, you didn't use enough linking words, you should say something like, I like your handwriting, Sarah. It's good. It's better to use this and this. And then you finish and you end up with something positive again. And it's very fruitful.
Mhm. Thank you. Um, well, thank you so much, Yusra. Thank you again. And thank you, our moderators, Mohammed on Zoom, and Amira, and Dua, Joanna, and Wiam as well. We will be back tomorrow for a second day of the MENA online conference on screen now. And you will see the website for this. You'll find the registration link in the chat box. For those of you who are wondering about handouts, links for that are also provided in the same page where registration occurs. Thank you so much, Yusra.
You're welcome. Thank you, Nadia, for moderating today's session. It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you guys for attending. And thank you for making this possible and enjoyable with all of you.